5-year-old Musk sat at the kitchen table, crayons scattered around him, working intently on his drawings when he heard his father's voice rise sharply from the next room. Knew he wasn't supposed to eavesdrop, but something about the anger in his father's voice made him pause and listen. "That's completely unfair. Judge Boasberg is clearly biased," his father said into the phone, frustration thick in his tone. "This whole case is a sham. Before we dive deeper, let us know where you're watching from and hit subscribe, because what's coming is something they don't want you to see." Didn't understand all the words, but he knew his dad was upset. When the call finally ended, his father sat at the table, rubbing his hands through his hair, looking exhausted. Pushed his drawings aside and asked softly, "What's wrong, Dad?" His father hesitated, then sighed. "Sometimes, people in important positions don't play fair. There's a judge, Boasberg, making bad decisions in a case that's really important to me? Like when Tommy at school changes the rules so he always wins?" Asked, frowning. His father gave a small, sad smile. "Exactly like that. But when grown-ups do it, it hurts real people's lives." Nodded seriously. He hated unfairness more than anything. Later that night, while his father thought he was asleep, sneaked into the home office and grabbed his dad's tablet. He was clever, better with technology than most adults. Searching Judge Boasberg, he read everything he could, piecing together what he understood. Words like conflict of interest and suspicious rulings stood out. He even found pictures of Boasberg at fancy parties with the very people his father had called competitors. Didn't grasp every detail, but he understood one thing very clearly. The judge wasn't playing fair. The next morning at breakfast, looked up and said, "I want to go to court today." His father nearly choked on his coffee. "What? Why would you want to go to court?" "I want to see Judge Boasberg, the man who's being unfair." His father stared at him, shocked. He glanced at his tablet and seemed to realize how might have learned about the judge. Courts aren't places for children. But today's bring your child to work day at school. Said smartly, "My teacher said you can bring me." After a moment of hesitation, his father finally nodded. "All right, I have a hearing today. You can come, but you must promise to sit quietly with Miss Chen, my assistant." Nodded eagerly. But secretly, he was already forming a plan. Hidden inside his small backpack, alongside a dinosaur toy and a juice box, was a secret, a recording device he had found in his father's desk drawer. During the car ride, silently practiced what he might say if he got the chance. He had no idea how much bigger things were about to get. The courthouse was massive, marble columns towering overhead and wide steps stretching out front. Holding his father's hand tightly, passed through security, surrounded by serious-looking people in suits. "This is Miss Chen," his father said, introducing a kind woman in a sharp blue suit. "She'll sit with you." "Hi, she smiled warmly. "I brought coloring books for you." Smiled back politely, but inside he was plotting. The courtroom filled quickly. His father went to sit at the front with the lawyers, while Miss Chen led to the back row. "All rise. Judge James Boasberg presiding," the clerk announced. Everyone stood as a stern-faced man in black robes entered. The hearing began, and X watched carefully. He noticed how the judge smiled at the other lawyers but frowned when his father's team spoke. Every time his dad tried to explain something, Judge Boasberg cut him off. "This isn't fair," X thought angrily, clutching his backpack tighter. About 20 minutes into the hearing, Miss Chen stepped away to answer a call. Seizing his chance, X slipped under the bench, crawling quietly along the side of the room. Nobody noticed the small boy moving stealthily toward the front. Just as Judge Boasberg called for a 10-minute recess and disappeared into his private chambers, X slipped through the closing door behind him. The chambers were lavish, leather chairs, thick law books lining the walls. Judge Boasberg, unaware of X's presence, picked up his phone. "Yes, everything's proceeding as planned," the judge said into the receiver. "Musk doesn't stand a chance. We'll make sure the ruling goes your way. The usual payment arrangement is fine." X gasped audibly. The judge spun around, stunned to see a small boy standing there. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" he barked. X stood as tall as he could. "I'm X Musk," he said bravely, "and I heard what you said. You're being paid to be unfair to my dad." The judge's face turned white, then furious red. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted. "It's wrong to take money to hurt my dad," X replied, his voice trembling but firm. Before the judge could react, the door burst open. Miss Chen, a court officer, and X's father all rushed in, eyes wide with confusion and fear. "What's going on?" his father demanded. X pulled the small recorder from his pocket. "I recorded everything," he said proudly. The judge lunged toward X, but his father stepped in protectively. "Don't you dare touch my son," he said, his voice deadly calm. Security moved in, but X stood firm. "Play the recording," he insisted. Reluctantly, his father took the device and pressed play. Judge Boasberg's voice echoed through the room. "Yes, everything is proceeding as planned. Musk doesn't stand a chance. We'll make sure the ruling goes your way. Yes, the usual payment arrangement works." The room fell silent. Shock rippled through the gathered crowd. The judge stammered, "That doesn't prove anything. It's out of context." "Who were you talking to?" X's father demanded. Before the judge could answer, a tall woman in a sleek suit entered. "I'm Barbara Lane, Chief Ethics Counsel," she said sharply. "What's going on?" the court officer quickly explained. Lane's face grew grim. She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, we need to speak privately." Boasberg tried to bluster, but his authority was crumbling. Then X tugged on his father's sleeve again. "Dad, there's more," he whispered, from his dinosaur backpack. He pulled out a bright green folder covered in stickers. Inside were crookedly printed pages, financial records, news clippings, photos, all linking Judge Boasberg to Carson Holdings, the company on the other side of the case. There were even photos of Boasberg golfing with Carson's CEO and documents showing payments to the judge's wife from a Carson subsidiary. Barbara Lane flipped through the folder, her frown deepening. "These should have triggered a recusal," she said quietly. Just then, Boasberg's phone rang. Everyone saw the caller ID. Carson Holdings. The room tensed. Isn't that the parent company of your opposing party? Lane asked coldly. X's father's phone buzzed, too, with a news alert. Documents had leaked showing Carson Holdings had been